Well, 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 well. You'll never guess what I just happened to stumble upon. And I just went down a rabbit hole of research. So, did you know that 90% of the ICE detainees, and there are several thousand all over the country, mostly there's a lot in Texas. That's what started me down the rabbit hole. A Mother Jones video about a native person being detained. They said, we're just going to check their paperwork and then we'll release them. And they didn't. They sent them to Texas. And then I went down a rabbit hole and discovered something. Let me share it with you. 90% of ICE detainees are in privately held detention centers. But wait, it gets even more interesting. There are two main private companies that own the detention facilities where ICE people, kidnappees, are being detained. Many of them have just been kidnapped. We've talked about that. GeoCorp and CoreCivic are the two largest private incarceration and detention companies in the United States. And yes, they also house ICE detainees. And in fact, immigration detention and ICE detainees are the largest growing sector of these two companies. Yeah, because just, grabbing black men off the streets wasn't enough. So now they have a new market. That's what it is. It's a new market. Their business model actually depends upon government enforcement priorities, detention bed expansion, and that was another thing that led me down this rabbit hole because many of the detention centers are at capacity, so they're building more. And the third business model depends on federal contracting decisions. So these aren't just neutral businesses. These are businesses whose business model, whose profit, whose livelihood depend on us imprisoning people. We know, and many of us know, we've talked about this for decades, that prisons probably should not be private enterprises. But wait, I'm not done. It gets even more interesting. Hold on. GeoCorp, one of the companies that has a majority of these detention contracts, has a PAC, a political action committee, and through the PAC and their executives, guess who they have contributed to? Guess whose campaign, starting in 2015, they have given an awful lot of money to? As my mother used to say, 3 guesses, the first 2 don't count. In fact, geo-linked entities gave so much money to pro-Trump PACs and super PACs that it raised federal contractor concerns. They gave so much money that it set off a few bells and red flags. So private money from Geo Group funneled directly into Trump's campaign. But it gets better. We're not done. CoreCivic donated $500,000 to Trump's inauguration committee. So remember when there was all this big concern over Jeff Bezos and Zuck and a lot of these other tech bros giving millions of dollars to the inauguration fund? Well, they weren't the only one. CoreCivic also gave a buttload of money to Trump's inauguration fund. So we know that millions of dollars went to Trump's inauguration committee or his inauguration fund, right? And all that money is supposed to go toward inauguration expenses. Technically, by law, the president is not allowed to just put that money in his or her his pocket, right? But there's a lot of gray area there. It's not really tracked. So there were millions of dollars given to this inauguration fund. And once all the inauguration expenses are paid, where does the rest go? So that both CoreCivic and Geo weren't just lobbying, they were actually investing in Trump personally. They were investing in him. But it gets even better. We're not done yet. Geo, the company Geo, was actually hosting corporate events at Trump properties, giving more money to Trump. And for the real fun one, guess who used to work for Geo as a lobbyist and as an independent contractor. Any guesses? Again, 3 guesses. Our current Attorney General, Pam Bondi. Yep, Pam Bondi used to work for GEO, one of the largest providers of facilities to incarcerate and abduct and kidnap immigrants, illegal or otherwise, off the streets. Yeah. And interestingly enough, another strange coincidence. And it gets even more interesting. So under Trump, he started a reversal of Obama-era DOJ phasing out of private entities owning prisons and incarceration facilities. So Obama started to phase it out because he saw the issue with having private companies profiting off of incarcerating people. That's kind of gross. I mean, the video I did about how greed has become holy. And it just seems that there is a definite problem when we are helping people profit off of the incarceration of people. And the government is responsible for awarding those contracts. Who gets to build the facilities to incarcerate people? Who gets to build the prisons? And what kind of... I'm not saying there are, but it seems to me that there could be opportunities there for kickbacks. I'm not gonna say that it's happening. I'm gonna play Tucker Carlson here. I wonder if there are any kickbacks happening. How's my Tucker Carlson impression? So under Trump, the rollback happened extremely quickly, opening the door for renewed private prison contracting. And guess who got those contracts? The people who donated money to Trump's inauguration and Trump's election and Trump's properties and things like that. Trump also expanded immigration enforcement. You know, we're seeing it now with ICE out on the streets. And this is what really kind of made my spidey sense go up and made me go down this rabbit hole to begin with. Why are they being so sloppy? This isn't about immigration enforcement because there is a way to go about capturing criminals, right? There is a way to go about capturing criminals. But that's not what ICE is doing. ICE is literally on the street just pulling anybody who looks, and it wasn't it the DOJ who said, yeah, or even the Supreme Court, I think it was, right? That said, yeah, you can racially profile. And so they're racially profiling and just pulling brown people, anybody with an accent or who speaks Spanish on the street. They're pulling them off the street. And that got my spideys. Like, why? What is in it for this administration to fill those detention centers with anybody and everybody? And this is what I found. So he expanded the immigration enforcement, which is their real gold mine. This has been a gold mine for these two companies. Even when there were DOJ limits, the ICE detention contracting was the golden goose for these companies. But Trump's immigration policies and this enforcement and this crazy ICE on the street pulling people out of cars and taking, and again, this was the other red flag. They're not taking them and holding them locally overnight. They're shipping them off to one of these detention centers. So again, why are they so desperate to fill beds? Trump's policies, his agenda, have required more beds, more facilities, and more corporate operators. Mass enforcement requires mass detention, and these companies supply it. Trump also expanded and accelerated no-bid contracts. No bid. No bidding. So when he needs to build a new detention center, like many of us who've ever done work on our houses or whatever, we don't put out a call for 3 contractors and take the best one. No bid. No bid contracts. They don't even have to bid. And guess who appears as the 2 biggest beneficiaries of this acceleration and this expansion of no bid contracting for these centers? Geo and CoreCivic. I don't know. It seems to me that this could really be something nefarious. But this correlation is structural. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is real life happening in our country today, right now. Trump pushes detention growth. ICE needs beds. Geo and CoreCivic provide those beds, and their revenues increase. Their profits increase. The federal government is paying, we, the taxpayers, our tax money is paying for these beds that they are putting the people they kidnap off the streets, whether they have committed crimes or not, whether they're here legally or not. People just seem very desperate. People at the top, Pam Bondi, Donald Trump, immigration, Homeland Security, ICE, all those people seem really anxious to fill as many beds as possible. Doesn't it seem that way? Because again, if this was about taking the criminals off the street, there's a way to do that. There is an organized way to weed out the criminals and arrest them. And instead, we have these armed, masked vigilantes grabbing people off the street and putting them in beds. What the fuck? Trump-era policies expanded detention and the need for detention centers. Detention expansion produced massive new contracts for these companies. And Geo and CoreCivic positioned themselves to be pretty much the sole profiteers from this expansion and this agenda and this government policy. So Trump doesn't need to own these companies because the business model of CoreCivic and Geo is thriving under this administration. I don't know about you, but I think this is really disturbing. But it also answers a lot of questions. We have been wondering what the hell is going on. Why is ICE just grabbing people off the streets? Why are they shoving people in these detention centers? I think this is the answer. I wonder if there is some way that the president is benefiting. I don't know. I'm just asking questions. But when immigration becomes an industry, detention becomes a business plan, and a very profitable one at that. So I had to share this with you. I just stumbled upon this, and I just wanted, everybody needs to know about this. Everybody needs to know the name of Geo, GEO, and CoreCivic. They're both making a killing off of immigration enforcement? No. It's whoever ICE feels like picking up that day. That's what it is. I think that's up by design. It doesn't matter. We need to fill beds. And frankly, there aren't... oh, boy. Okay. Hang on. There probably aren't enough immigrants who have actually committed serious crimes to put in those beds. I mean, what would the numbers be? How many immigrants are there who have committed crimes? That may not be enough to fill endless numbers of beds. This is like modern day concentration camp for profit. That's exactly what this feels like, doesn't it? Anyway, that's how I see it. Let me know your thoughts below. If you like my content, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. All right, thanks very much. And again, let me know what you think below. Yeah, crazy, isn't it?